In this video, I want to talk a little bit more about a subject that is very close to my heart, and it is why I sometimes feel like an imposter in the goth scene. Basically talking about Goth Imposter Syndrome. Hello spooky bats and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi and welcome. My name is Orphea and I'm a goth YouTuber from Belgium. Ever since I started my channel 7 years ago, or more than 7 years ago actually, because some of the videos are no longer online, I've always had such big interest for the goth scene and what it was all about. At the early stages of starting my channel, I didn't fully identify as goth, I was alternative. Over the years, I started identifying more and more with the goth subculture. I learned about it so much, I read books about it, listened to hours upon hours upon hours of music, must be days and months even. I learned so much from other people on YouTube. Unfortunately, a lot of people associate goth only with a very visible clothing style, which goth obviously isn't. Goth isn't just about the clothes that you wear, it's about how you feel, how you reflect, how you see life. It's about, in my opinion, seeing beauty in darkness. But most of all, and most importantly, it's a music-based subculture. And that will never stop. So regardless of how you look, goth is, was, and always will be a music-based subculture. And anyone who tries to tell you different, I'm sorry, but they're wrong. Goth comes from the origin of the goth music. Without the goth music as a base, there would not be a goth subculture. There would be an alternative fashion style related to it, that maybe yes, but not the subculture the way we know it today. Now, to get further into this, I'm not sure if you know, but my mom was punk in her early days. So my mom actually was in the punk subculture. I never knew this until I was age 17, 18 and started going out to events myself. I used to live in the middle of nowhere, so over there people were just alternative. There was no clear difference between goth, metalhead, punk, hippie. Everyone hung out together. Everyone who was alternative went to the same events because there was so little to do, to the same concerts, etc. So for me, there was a very big melting pot of music styles, clothing styles, fashion styles that were all somehow related to each other. Most of the bands that I saw back in the days were actually punk bands, metal bands, or even folk-influenced bands. I didn't know about the true goth bands the way you and I probably, hopefully, know them, such as Susie and the Banshees, The Cure. Those are the staple goth bands that people think of when you think of the goth subculture. I came into contact with those only afterwards. I started listening to metal first. I came from more of a rebellious state punk type music first, then that evolved into metal music mainly, and that's only when I discovered goth music and what the goth subculture was. But before I started getting into the music, I already had discovered the fashion style. Back in the days, there were no really alternative stores that I knew of, and the only ones I knew of were either online and I couldn't order anything online, or they were in the big cities where I went only on very small occasion. Whenever I went into those stores, the music that I played was heavy metal music. It was Cradle of Filth, Dimmu Borgir, Motorhead, Iron Maiden, etc. So it is kind of logical for some people to make the association with that music and the fashion style associated to it. The stores would mainly sell a variety of band shirts, but also skirts from Hell Bunny, you know, the ones with the lots of chains and the little details, but also corsets, jewelry of alchemy, and everything in between. They used to sell demonias and new rocks and all sorts of gloves, fishnets, hair dye, piercing jewelry. It is basically the stores that I was used to were a big melting pot for alternative subcultures and the way they dressed. So I know that to some people it can be very confusing and even weird that we identify as goth, we listen to totally different music, but the music that they play in the stores is mainly metal music. And it is true that for some people it is very, very difficult to know this difference, and most people don't even spend the time to look up what goth is. And the thing is, over the years I have evolved myself as a person too. I learned a lot about the goth subculture. I think I must have read over 20 books about goth, like the gothic art. So actually gothic, as it is called in Dutch, my native language. So actually the gothic architecture. I learned more about gothic literature as well. So I read a lot of books that actually are not closely related to what the goth subculture is nowadays, but that I knew at least the foundation of where does goth actually come from. Of course, I also did a little bit of history research about the Goths, you know, Goten, which it's called in Dutch, which is not at all related to the goth subculture as we nowadays know it. And then of course, only recent years there have become very good books about the goth subculture. One of my personal favorites is Somewhere Leather, Somewhere Lace, and that book has been a really big eye-opener for me. As all of a sudden I had access to resources that I wish I had when I started out in the goth subculture. Now, when I was young, there was a website called Vampire Freaks, and Vampire Freaks was one of those melting pot websites that if you were alternative or into the goth subculture or into the goth aesthetic basically, you could make an account and talk to people. There were groups on it, a little bit like Reddit, where you have like posts where you can comment on each other and talk about different subjects related to the goth subculture. And that website made a huge difference to me. I learned so much over there, but mainly I actually came into contact with my local goth scene here in Belgium, which I didn't even know existed. I learned about parties, I started going out to parties, etc. And that's how I grew into goth. Ever since I quit school, I have made a very big evolution as well. I used to dress very extremely goth in my spare time because when I had a job, I had to dress a certain way for that job. I had to be completely able to hide the fact that I was goth at my job, externally seen at least. And that's one of the things that now actually starting to bother me, is that people, whenever they see me not fully gothed up, as I like to call it, they try and tell me that I'm not goth. What do they know? How do they know? Does it even matter, actually? And that's something that I really want you to think about as well, is that if you tell someone that they are or aren't goth, how is it your right to tell them that? If they feel like they belong in the subculture, if they appreciate the music, if they feel like this is their home, then they should be able to call themselves goth. Even if they don't dress completely in black, because I know a lot of goth people who completely don't dress in black. Some of them do, I personally do, I prefer dressing in black. But the thing is, I don't have to always be as extravagant about my looks. Even now for this video, this is the way that I look when I make things for my own business. I actually record videos for my own business as well, so this is the way I look for some of those videos. And this is just me. This is the way my clients accept me, as being their coach or being their video creator, because I do create videos for a living. And it's something very difficult that I had to accept over the years, is that not everyone is going to see me the way I am or see me the way that I want them to see me. And I will not always look a certain way. I will not always dress up as extravagantly, and that's okay. Basically, this video is just me talking to you and telling you that I sometimes feel like an outsider even to my own subculture. And the thing is, if you don't wear brand goth clothing or you don't wear all black, people immediately think that you're not goth. And if you wear black clothing and if you wear dark makeup and if you look a bit depressed, everyone's gonna tell you you're goth or emo. But it's not that counts. It's not the looks that count that make you goth or not. It honestly doesn't matter at all. And sometimes I do still feel like an imposter because I don't listen to every single new song that is out there by every single goth labeled band. I actually prefer listening to electronic goth music, or some people don't even assume that it's goth music anymore because it's electronic. That's also a very big thing for me. I love the new wave music, I love goth rock, but I also really enjoy synth-pop and industrial. It's two totally different types of music, and some elitists say that only new wave and goth rock etc. is actually goth music, and some people think that only electronic music is goth. It's a whole other discussion about music, but it's also made it very difficult for me, because if I attend certain events and say, hey, I'm not really the biggest fan of this music, certainly they don't want to label me as goth anymore, because oh no, I don't listen to their favorite bands, or oh no, you don't listen to this genre of music enough. Which, in my opinion, is total, you know what it is. And then of course there's elitists online who don't know you at all, who will start calling you names, calling you out, telling you they're not goth. It happened to a friend of mine very recently, and I think it's just, why? Why do you have to tear down others in order to value yourself? I don't think it's worth it at all. So what I would love for this video is that you share your experiences with me in occasions that you felt like an outsider even in the subculture, because it has to be said that sometimes you feel like you don't belong anywhere, not even in our subculture. And it can be, of course, for various reasons. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content by me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I make new videos every week, and I would love to have you for every single one of them. Before I end this video, I of course want to thank my patrons, and more specifically my high tier patrons: Anders, Jerry, Jen, JB, Professor Gothic, and Elroy. Thank you so much for supporting my channel, it means the world to me. And of course to each and every one of you, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week with a new video. Bye!